Hi everyone! In this video, I will give a full tutorial about the Typegoose. So, what is Typegoose? To talk about Typegoose, we should at first mention the MongoDB and Mongoose. MongoDB is a very popular NoSQL document database. Mongoose is a Node.js library based on MongoDB Node.js driver, which lets the business logic much easier to be written. But Mongoose has its own special way to model the data, so thus comes the Typegoose, which is only a wrapper of Mongoose schema and models. It lets you model the data more like the traditional ORM, the table-like database, so it is more understandable for most of us. But it is still for Mongoose. You can use all the Mongoose functionality. Besides, if you use MongoDB with the type GraphQL or Nest.js GraphQL, then you will realize how much work the Typegoose will save you. Before we begin the tutorial, I want to thank the Typegoose community, especially the maintainer and developer of the Typegoose, Hazoi. I have used Typegoose for several years, asked a ton of stupid questions there. They all answered me. I learned a lot from this community. It is really a warm and helpful community. Okay, let's come to the tutorial. You can check the content list in the description and skip the part you already know. I will also put the GitHub code in the description so that you can follow the tutorial easier. Okay, now let's talk how to install MongoDB with Docker. At first, I assume that you have already installed the Docker software. If not, just go to this website doc.com to download and install it. After you install it, then we go to the Docker Hub to download the MongoDB official image. So here you will see Docker pour Mongo. Okay, then open terminal and we paste it here and pull this image. Make sure that you have already started the Docker software. Since I have already done, I don't repeat it again. After you pull the image, we go to the Docker, open the dashboard, go to the image. We will see here is a Mongo image, and click here, run a container. Then we can do some settings. So first we should give it a name, for example, my MongoDB. And here you can give a host port. This is container port. The default is 27017 on the container, but in my case, on my host, I want to use this one because I have already other MongoDB container. So I prefer to separate them. Okay, let's run it. Let's go to the container. And we will see here it's running. And how to check it's already running. We can use the MongoDB Compass software. Just go to this address and download the MongoDB Compass software and install it. I will put all the link list in the description. So after you install it, just open the MongoDB Compass. And now you just click a new connection and put the address and port here and just connect and saving. I can call it test example. Now we are already in this MongoDB. You see, it's connected. And here admins and config and local, that is from MongoDB itself. Now we can use it. For example, you can create a new database called hello and create a collection, for example, students. Create a database, then you can go to it and add the data. If you want to add the data, you can insert a document or just upload your files, JSON or CSV. So that's all. Let me just delete this database and drop the database. Okay, now we finished. This is all how to install the MongoDB on our computer. So now let's create the project. At first, make a folder in anywhere what you like. For example, I put here mkdir. It's called YouTube Typegoose tutorial. Okay, so then cd, go to this folder, then I open VS Code with this command code dot. Okay, then open terminal in VS Code, and now I can init this project. npm init -y. Okay, and now we should install TypeScript. We should also install Node, the type of node, Mongoose, Typegoose. Also, we need to install TS node. Okay. Now we can init the TypeScript. tsc --init, and you will see tsconfig. And here, there are something you should change. At first is we should make a root dir and out dir for the source file and output data. We just go here and new folder, call it src, and also create a new folder called dist. Now we find the root dir. rc, and also need to find the out dir. That's here. Put here dist. Then also experimental decorators. This is for Typegoose, and also this one, emit decorator metadata. Another thing I suggest to edit is this one. This is one, strict property initialization. This is also for Typegoose. Okay, now our TypeScript configuration is finished. Let's go to package.json. We change it to main.js, and now we can here set our start ts node src main.ts. Okay, let's create a file in src called main.ts. This main.ts is our main program. If we want the program run, we should at first connect the MongoDB database. How can we do that? We write at first a function. Const run is equal to async. So this Mongoose, we should import it from Mongoose. We should connect it and await Mongoose to connect. And we give the MongoDB address, which we just created. So with this one, and we should also give it a DB name. For example, it's called Typegoose tutorial. Then we can do something like console log hello. Then after that, await mongoose.disconnect. Okay, we should run it. Let's go to the terminal, write npm start. You see, here hello means we are success. Of course, we want to put all our functions here. How can we do that? Simply just put a function here. As a parameter, for simplicity, we just write so. And here, await func. So now we can define the function here, because here is error. It needs a function argument. Const print something. Console log hello. Then I put print something here. Let's run it again. npm start. You see? Correct. In our tutorial, I will simply write functions and put the function as the parameter in this run function. Okay, this is for the project initialization. Let's begin our project. What we will do in this example, we will simply write a block system. We let some users post some posts. So from instinct, we know we only need two models. One is the user and the other is the post. In the user model, we will put some user information in it. For example, username, email, and password. In the post model, we will put some post title, content, and authors in it. In MongoDB, there should be also two corresponding collections. One is the user collection, and the other is the post collection. Now, let's begin write our models. At first, create a folder called models. And then in the models, create a file called users. For generate models in Typegoose, we usually need two steps. The first is write a class, tells the Typegoose what the model looks like, how many columns, and how many functions it has. And the second step is let Typegoose to generate the model for you from the class. So let's begin with our first model, user. The first step is create the class. we call it user class. And let's make it simple. We have only one property, username. It is a string. To tell the MongoDB it is a column, we need this decorator, prop, from Typegoose. So this is a basic class for the model. In this decorator, there are some options. For example, required. Here is true. So the username you should give it every time. Okay. Maybe you will say we need another prop ID, but we don't need it because MongoDB creates the ID property for us automatically. And now the second step is let Typegoose generate the model for us. Port const user model is equal to get model for class from Typegoose and put the user class here. Okay, the basic user model is already finished. Now let's go to our main.ts. Take a look how to create our user. At first, let's change the function name to create users. Delete here code, and you can write your stuff here. So to create our user data, it has usually two methods. The first is a simple way. Write user model dot create, then give the data. Username is, for example, Connie. Of course, we need a wait because it returns a promise. Now here we of course need the async. The second method is use the user model to create an instance and then save in the instance. Const user is equal to new user model. And here you can also give your data, for example, Adrian. Then we need to save. And don't forget await because it is also a promise. Okay, the first method is simple. The second method has more code, but it gives you a flexibility because you can later simply do some data transformation. For example, user.username is equal to user.username to lowercase. But for simplicity, we just delete here. Now let's run our code. npm start and go back to our MongoDB. Refresh. We see here we got a database. And click it. We see there's user classes. And we have two documents. One is Connie, the other is Adrian. Now let's talk about the collection name. So Typegoose change the user class name and make it to lowercase and plural. So this is this one. But the problem is we don't want the user classes. We want simply user. How can we do that? So let's go back. It is simple. You just need the model options. From Typegoose, and in it there is schema options, and there is a collection, and just give the name you want. For example, users. Okay, then let's run it again. Go back to MongoDB and refresh and see we get a users. Now the user class, we can simply drop it. Just click here, drop collection, and type the user classes. and job collection. Finished. Of course, later we can use the code to drop it. Okay, this is how to create our user data. Now, let's talk about a subdocument. Imagine in our user model, we have also the user information about his job. For example, the job title and the company. How to embed this information into our user model? Let's write the code now. At first, create the subdocument job. It is simply a class. It has a title, string. Of course, it needs a prop. And then the company, also string. Then let's go to the user class. Just write a simple property, job. And link it to the job class. Let's go back to the main.ts and just delete the second method. And here we just need to add the job title, programmer, company, Google. Okay, that's it. Let's test. Run the code. npm start. Now let's go back to MongoDB. Refresh. You see? The last document has the job subdocument. But maybe you don't want the ID to keep the data simplicity. Go back and go to the user.ts, and here, and simply we write the model options. And here also the schema options, the ID property, and write it false. Okay, let's run the code again. npm start. Go back to MongoDB and refresh. And see, the last document doesn't have the ID. So this is the way how we write subdocument in Typegoose. Now let's talk about the index. How to do index in Typegoose. It is very important because with the correct index, your search can be more efficient. Now let's take a look at our users collection. Click here index, and you will see here has already an index underscore ID because MongoDB will create a default index for you with underscore ID. So it will be always very efficient if you search something by ID. Now let's go back to our main file. Let's make a query. Keep in mind, query in Typegoose is exactly the same as Mongoose because Typegoose only changes the way how you write the model, nothing else. Now let's make a function called query users. In Mongoose, we use the model.find to query the data. Const result is equal to user model.find. You see, if you use find by ID and put the ID here, you will always get a very efficient result. But we want to do something else. Here, we want to find the user by username and the company. So, username, Connie, and here we can write job.company as boo-boo. And here need an exec because in Mongoose, the model find is always a lazy query. It means it won't execute as you write the exec. And it always returns a promise. So we need a wait. Now we can print the result. And here we can just change it to query users. Now we can run our data. npm start. You see we get two results. So one is Connie with company Boo, but with ID, and the other is Connie also with the company Boo, but without the ID. And let's go back to the database. Yeah, exactly. This code looks good, but there is a problem. If your data is small, it is efficient. But if you have a lot of users, then the search won't be efficient. It means we need to make our own index for the username and job company. How can we do that? It's simple. Go to users and find the user class. We need just the index decorator. And here put all the fields you want to index. For example, you can put username 1, that means ascending. -1 means descending. So we here write it ascending. This is a single index, and you can also use the compound index. Job.company 1. Now let's run our code. npm start. It is exactly the same result, but let's go back to our data and click the index. Refresh, and you will see here added a new index. Username 1 and job company 1. That's how you create the index. Now, I messed up my user collection. The data is not consistent, so I want to drop the database and recreate the data. To do that, I need at first to change my code a little. I will change the run function so that I can input multiple functions here. Let's go here, run, and change it to funcs. And here I put 3 dots, the spread operation. Write a for loop for const func of funcs. Put the functions here. In this way, I can run multiple functions. Now let's write a function to remove the database. Const job data is async user model dot collection dot job. This function can let you simply remove users collection, and don't forget to put an await here. Now I can put the job data function here and create users here. In the create function, I want to input more data. For example, here, Adrian, consultant, company, big face. Now, let's run the data. Here, we see we got 2 data correct. Now, let's talk about the reference. Reference links the information between 2 collections. In our example, we let user post some posts. So we need 2 models. One is the user model, we have already done. The other is the post. In post model, we should have post title, post content, of course also the author. The author field is a reference to the user collection. Now let's take a look how to write the post model. At first, let's create a file called post.ts. Under the model, here we can write our post model. And the first step, we write our post class. Here we put all the information we want to know. For example, the title, it should be a string, and it should be also required. And of course, also the content. Maybe also tags. It should be an array of string. But if your type is array, then it is always better to declare your type here. Now come to our author field. It should be ref. And here is the user class. And you need also to declare the ref type. Of course, the ref also accepts the string, user class string, but I think this method is better because it avoids the type error. The author should be required. Now we come to the model option. I don't want the post class as my collection name. I want it simply called post. So, model options, schema options, and here collection, and posts. Another cool thing in schema options is timestamps. If you write the timestamps true, it will add 2 property for you. One is created at, and it is the data type, and the other is updated at, also the data type. The Mongoose will add the 2 fields for you automatically. Now the second step is get the model. Also, we here need the export. Now let's go to the main.ts. Create some posts. So we need at first to know the user's ID. We know we have 2 users. So one is Adrian, the second is Connie. So let's get the 2 user ID. const Connie is equal to await user model dot find one username is Connie and here exec const Adrian and here username is Adrian. Now we can create our post. Await post model dot create. Here we can put an post array. Title hello. Good morning. Tags maybe blog. And now is the author. Connie.id. But it complains. Why? Because the Connie is possibly null. Since we are in TypeScript, we should write a type guard. If Connie doesn't exist, then return. And the same for Adrian. Hello to here. Here is just changed to Adrian. Maybe coding. Now we can run our code. npm start. Now let's take a look at the data. Refresh. We get a post. 3 posts. It has an object ID, and the Mongoose also added the created ad and updated ad for me. Now let's query the data. Go back to the code and we write a function called query posts. We just use find query all the posts. And now we can console log it. Now let's run our code. You see? Here, cool. We get our data and the author is an object. But very often we want to know who is the author. It's actually very simple. Just add here a populate. And we should give which field we want to populate. Here is author. Now let's run it again. Cool. Let's correct. We see it listed the author information for us, but the problem is here in the job we cannot see exactly what it is. So there is a small util function can help us. Let's just import the util. We use util inspect and the res and the second show hidden we should set it to false. And the depth we set it to null, and the color we set it to true. Let's run it again. Now this time we see the author, and it is the same as Subdocument. What's good is you don't need to save the data in the same collection. But sometimes maybe you would say, here the user has too many fields. I don't really interest all the fields. What should I do? So there are actually an easy way to do it. You change it to pass and give the field you want to populate author and select. And here you can write the subfield which you are interested in. For example, username and job title. Okay, save. Let's run it again. You see, this time it only shows the job title and the username. With reference and populate, you get the same benefit of the subdocument. So this is how you use reference. Now let's talk about pre and post hooks. Pre and post hook will do something before or after certain methods is called. For example, we would like to uppercase our post title before we save post to the database. How can we do that? Let's go back to our post class. In Typegoose, we use decorators for the pre and post hooks. Above the class, we write the pre hook and import from Typegoose. And here we can give the type post class. And the first argument is the string. And here, of course, we use the save. There are actually a lot of other strings we can use. Please go to Mongoose, have a check. And the second is a function. Here we can write whatever we want to do. For example, we can write this.title equal to this.title dot to uppercase. Let's add some posts. At first, let's drop the post collection. And now we can write drop data and create posts. Let's run our code. npm start. Go back to our MongoDB and refresh. We see here our title are all uppercased. So that's all about the pre and post hook. Now let's talk about validation. In Typegoose and Mongoose, we can either use built-in validation for simple cases or write our own validation. Let's go back to our user class. Here, maybe we want our username has at least 3 characters. In prop decorators, we can find the built-in validator, min length, and give a number, for example 3. So simple it is. How many built-in validators are there? Just go to Mongoose, have a check. Here, there are min, max, enum, match, min length, and max length. But very often, we want to do some complicated validation, so we have to write it by ourselves. Imagine we have an email property. Of course, only email are allowed. Now write our own validator. Just in the option, we can find the validator. And under the validator, there is a validator. Here it takes a function. The function takes the first value v. That's our email value. Just a string. Now we can do anything what we want, but we need to return a boolean. So for simplicity, we use a third-party library to do validation. It's called validator. Now let's install it. npm install validator. And also its types. Types validator. After installation, we import the validator. Import validator. Validator. Now we can use validator dot is email and put the v here. It will return a boolean, so we just write here return. Okay, our validator function is finished. Of course, we can also give it a message. Message. Please give an email. So, we finished our custom validator. Okay, now we can add email to our users. Let's go back to our main.ts. We create a function called updateUser. For update, there are usually two methods. So the easiest way is to use the find and update function. Here we use find one and update because we want to only find one user. And the first argument is filter. Here we want the username is equal to Connie. And the second argument is what we want to update. Here we write email. For example, at first we give AAA. Then this should not be passed. Now let's run our code. npm start. Strange, it works. There is no error. Let's go back to MongoDB, refresh. We see the email AAA is passed. So what's the problem is here? And I want to say it's very important. There is a third argument. The option, you need add a run validators and give it true. Then you can use the validator. Let's run it again. npm start. This time you see the error comes and it say errors, email, validator, error. Please give an email. So this is the first way to update data. There is also a second way to update data. We can use the save function. At first, we need to find the user. const user is equal to await user model dot find when Adrian, and the type guard user dot email is equal to, for example, BBB. This should also not be passed, and then user dot save and await. Okay, so let's run it again. You see, this time it also returns the error, correct? Now let's do it again. Take a look whether this will be passed this time. Now let's run the code again. npm start. This time it works. There is no error reported. Go back to the MongoDB, refresh, and you see this time the two data are all updated. Okay, this is about the validation. Now let's talk about virtue. A virtue is a property that is not stored in MongoDB. Virtues are typically used for computed properties on documents. Let's come back to our example. Imagine we have a property called summary, which briefly describes the user. The virtue usually has getter and setter. Getter is for read and setter is for write. So let's write our getter. Go to the user class, and here use the get keyword, get summary. We need to return something, so return this.username, this.job.title, this.job.company. Okay, this is our virtue property. Now let's test our code. Write a function called getVirtue. Let's look out the result. Now run our code. Strange, you see? There is no summary. But if we res dot summary and run it again, this time it shows our virtue property. So by default, Mongoose don't show our virtue. So if you want Mongoose automatically output virtue property, you can go to the class and in the schema options, write the to JSON and virtues and true. Also to object virtues true. Only in this way it will show our virtue property automatically. Let's test our code again. So here npm start. This time you see the summary property is here. Okay, this is our getter. Now let's come to the setter. Go to the user and right here set summary. Here we need a value for And now we can write const for dot split by comma, and the first is username and the second is title, the third one is company. Okay. I think I need a trim. Okay, let's test this function. Go to main.ts and write a setVirtue function. Const setVirtue. We need at first find the user. Then we can set our virtue. For example, Connie, developer, big head, and here we need a type guard. Of course, don't forget the save. Okay, now let's run our code. Go to MongoDB, refresh, and take a look at Connie. You see the Connie gets the exclamation mark. And the job is also changed. Okay, this is all about the virtue. Let's talk about Mongoose schema instance methods, which refers to the methods used by Mongoose document, the instance of Mongoose model. There are already a lot of built-in instance methods there. For example, the save and update, which we used in this tutorial. But we can also write our own custom instance methods. In our project, imagine the login process. We ask the user to provide a password to compare with the saved password. If they are same, then he can log in, otherwise reject. Let's go to the user class. We need to add a field called password for the user class. And let's add a password for the users. Go to the main.ts, create a function called add passwords. Here we also use the find one and update. Here I will give the password w1. Okay, now we can run our code. Let's go back to our database. Refresh, and we see we added here the password. Now we come to the user.ts. We can add the instance method. Just write in the user class and write a function called compare password Here you can write whatever you want, but this function takes two arguments. The first is this. The second is your argument. For example, password string. And you need to take care of this. We want the document type because it's an instance from the Mongoose. And here is the user class. In this way, you will get the type hints. Okay. Now you can compare the password. This dot password equal to password. And we can write here return. This function will tell us whether the user given password is correct. Now let's go our main.ts. Write a function to run this instance method. Now let's find the user at first. Now we can call our compare password function. Click the dot, you will see compare password. And here you can give a password what you want. For example, I want to give ABC, and this should return false. Now we can call our instance method. Okay, I think we need to log out the result. Let's run it again. See, it's false. And now let's change it to PW1. Run it again. Yeah, this time is true. This is about the instance method. I want to mention here also an option in prop, select. Let's go to the user. And for example, our password. We don't want the password always be returned because of the security reason. So we can do this. In this way, the find won't return the password field. But sometimes we want the password result. For example, if you are admin. So you can go to the main.ts and write here a select. And here you can write plus password. Okay, let's try it again. So this works. Okay, I just want to mention the select is very important. If you set your select in prop as false, you need to add this line code here. Now let's come to the static method. Compared to instance method, the static method refers to the method of model class. Let's imagine we want to show all posts of a certain user. Of course, we can write this function in our main.ts file. However, if this function is often used, it would be very cumbersome to write it every time. So we can put this function into the user class as a static method. Now let's go to our user class, write the static method. Behind the compare password, we write the function called getPostByUsername. To define this function as a static function, we just simply write a static keyword before it. The function takes at least one argument. This. This should be the type of the model class, and we can write it in this way. Return model type from Typegoose, and here we should give the user class type of user class. And the second argument, we can give whatever we want. For example, here we just give it username, and it should be a string. Now we should at first find the user. So since the username is the same, we can just simplify it as this way. And since it is await, so this function should be async. Now we can use the post model, find all the posts posted by this user. The author should be the user ID. And of course, we need a type guard. Return result. Of course, we can here also populate the author column. So the result will be more clear. And here we can just write it in this way for the simplicity. Now let's go to our main file and call this static method. And we create a function called static method. Now we can call the user model dot, and we see the get post by username. Then we can give our username, for example, Connie. Now we can log out our result. Let's change it to static method. So finish, we can run our code. npm start. We see it finds the two posts by the user Connie, and it will populate the author. That's cool. Okay, this is all about the static method. Now, let's talk about the plugins. Mongoose schemas are pluggable. They allow to use plugins, which are reusable logic. You can either write your own plugins or use third-party plugins. Now let's come to a small example. Mongoose auto-populate plugin, which allow always to populate certain fields of your schema. Now let's install the plugin at first. npm install mongoose auto-populate. Return. Okay. Now let's go to the post class. Here, we want to auto-populate the author field. This one. So what we need is the plugin decorator from Typegoose. Just over the post class, and right here, plugin from Typegoose. And here you can give your plugin name. So here we need to import the plugin. import from Mongoose auto-populate, and here we just write auto-populate, and here we can give the name auto-populate. Then we go to the author, and in the prop you will find an option called auto-populate and set it to be true. And now we can go to our main.ts file, test this plugin. And here we create a function called try plugin. In this function, we will find a user and then list all of his posts. So at first, let's find the user. Let's say we want to find the author, Adrian. And then we can find all his posts. So in the author field, we'll give the user ID. So here we need a type guard. If user doesn't exist, then return. Okay, here just exec. And now we can log out our result. And here change to try plugin. Now let's run it. npm start. You see, the author field is automatically populated. Okay, this is how we use the plugin from Mongoose. Okay, this is the most important things in Typegoose. Thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.